Over the years, I have really changed a lot as a trader. I think most of us do. As you gain experience over a number of years, you grow naturally, right? You grow as a trader. Sometimes you change your opinions on things. Sometimes you change your whole philosophy and worldview as far as trading, as you go along. When we first start trading, I remember first learning options. My first exposure to options was I came across the TASTYTRADE content network, about 10, 12 years ago. And of course, believed that, hey, these guys know what they're doing. All they do is sell strangles. That's all I'll do, right? And, I still sell a lot of strangles, but it's not all I do anymore, right? And then a few years later, I discovered, you know what? I don't like undefined risk trades like strangles as much as I like defined risk. So then I got into doing a lot of credit spreads and iron condors. For me, that made sense. And then that was all I was doing for a while. And then I discovered the wheel strategy. And then, for a few years, that's all I was doing. I was just running the wheel on things. I think most traders are like that. They find the one strategy or set of strategies, and then they believe that that is the one and only way, and then that's all they ever do. But the truth is, all of these strategies work. There is a million different option strategies out there, and they all work under the right circumstances. And this is something that's very important to learn, especially if you're new to options, is that there's merit to every strategy. For example, the people that believe that all they need to do is just sell premium, sell volatility. So you're essentially just doing things like strangles, for example, and iron condors. But, there are times where it's right to do the other side of the trade, right? To actually get long volatility, get long premium, right? Buy options rather than sell options. Now, it's not something that I do all that often, but occasionally it is the right thing to do. I certainly buy more options now than I did when I first started learning to trade options, because TASTYTRADE, that's what they preach, right? They teach selling options. But now I'm not afraid to go buy some options, buy some calls, puts, debit spreads, butterfly spreads. I'll go pay a debit for something on occasion if I think it's the right move, if I'm getting a good price and I think the risk reward is there. And this is something that we all need to learn. For example, if you go, we all do this, right? We go and into the options chain and we decide, hey, I'm going to sell a strangle on something. And then you put on your one standard deviation strangle and ABC stock, and you look at the credit you receive and you're like, man, that credit's really bad. That is a very low credit for the buying power reduction, for the risk on the trade and the max loss potential. It's like, man, that's a horrible trade. Well, if it's a horrible trade, you do realize there's the other side to that trade. You could buy that strangle, right? You could buy that iron condor. Instead of doing that credit spread, you could turn it into a debit spread, do the other side of the trade. This is actually a perfect example are credit spreads. There are so many times I go and try to sell a put credit spread on something or a call credit spread. And I put it on at my usual deltas and DTE, and the credit is extremely low. Like I'm not getting paid at all to put on that credit spread. But if I flip it around and make it a debit spread, it's like, hey, I'm paying really low for the debit spread. So why not do the debit spread instead? And of course, you switch directional assumptions, but most of the time we have no idea where stocks are going anyway. You don't know if it's going up or down. So if you're just focused on price and risk reward, sometimes if that credit spread doesn't make any sense to do, just turn around, do the debit spread, right? That's kind of my thinking. If selling a put doesn't make any sense, you're like, man, I'm not getting any credit to sell that put. Buy a put, buy a call. Don't be afraid. If you're examining your typical trade setups and you're like, hey, I hate the risk reward on this trade. I hate the setup. I hate the credit I'm getting. Do not be afraid to completely flip it on its head and be essentially turn into the counterparty on the other side of the trade and do the opposite. That's perfectly okay, because in the end, none of us have any idea where any of this stuff is going, right? All you can do is make sure that when you put on the trade, on trade entry, you're comfortable with where you're at as far as risk versus reward. Food for thought, guys. Peace.